you. Buenos días todos. Y habla francés e inglés. No hablo español, un poquito solamente. I will do my presentation in English, which is, as Professor Abrana, is also a second language for me. It's not the first. And I want to talk today about Agile and maybe a little bit about myself. It's true that today I am a professor of software engineering in Montreal, but I have been a professor only for the last 7 years. I have over 33 years of experience in industry. I started as a programmer, I became an analyst, I was a specialist in software deployment at some point, and then I kind of changed career in 1996. I became a software process improvement specialist. And in 2006, I was certified as a Scrum Master. And I started implementing Agile methods in industry and officially became an Agile coach for several years while I was doing my PhD. And when I completed the PhD, I got a job offer at the university to become a professor. And since I'm an old lady now, I'm a grandmother. I have tengo dos nietas. I thought it's a good idea to contribute in training the next generation of software engineers, to give back to my students what I have received throughout my career. So it's with generosity in mind that I have become a professor. And I also wrote a book with a colleague about Agile in français. It's published in French and it has won the Best Book Award the year it was published for information technology, written in French. So I know Agile. It's just not an academic view of it, but really hands-on. Working with teams and organizations of all sizes, small and large, banks, company of insurance, but also small software shops as well. And I worked in the military for a while also. So the thing is, we have many stakeholders in any given project, each of which will have the specific questions we need to answer in order to start the project or control the way the project is being developed. So you will have the customer who wants to know the business value, or he wants to build a business case so he can say yes to the project, but we need to know what's the business value first and how much it costs. So you will have, in order to lay out the cost, we need to know what's the scope, what is included, what is not included in the project, and then upper management from the NSA, yeah, but how much it will cost? We need to answer that. The architect would say, okay, given the scope, should we reuse, rent software, build it, or buy it as is? So and they are not mutually exclusive. It could be all of the above. And after that, you'll have, doesn't work. Oh yes, just late. You have software middle management. How much effort will be required from his staff? So he can make sure he's got all appropriate people and competencies to the skills necessary to do the project. And Middle managers should also be concerned about the efficiency of the process. So they want to benchmark their process. They want to improve the productivity over time. Okay? The staff or user, they want to understand from the scope what will change. And they want to be kept informed throughout the project of the change of the software that will affect their work. Project team, they want to know how they will do that, what's the expected level of quality as well, so they will know how much testing or automation of testing they should do. Project office, what are the risks? How do we tackle those risks? How we make sure that we take them into account when we plan, we estimate, and also while we follow the status of the project, so they want to know what the real status is. And you will have operation, let's say, when will it be ready? So really, the two largest questions is how much it will cost, when will it be ready? So estimation is about answering those two questions, not only at the beginning of the project, but sound project management practices is that you are able to answer those two questions any given time during the project. Okay? And you may have third parties also involved in the project, which they would want, which part are we responsible for? So today we will not be answering all those questions, but some of them. So if you have a poorly controlled process and inadequate measurement, well, you will end up with a schedule of delivery that is late, only partial or incomplete functionalities delivered, budget goes out of whack, and quality very doubtful sometimes. So, and how about the business value? Have we forgotten the business value? Very often it's the case. The projects are started without any contact with the customer. Therefore, the software team has absolutely no idea of what's the business value of the building. So what should we do? Well, the first thing is we want a software methodology that will make sure we align on the business value. We want to be able to readjust our plan as we go if necessary because of emerging needs, because we live in a world that is changing at a faster and faster pace. We want to simplify the management project to reduce the cost of management. We don't want the management portion of the project to take more than 10 to 12% of the total budget. Well, I've measured projects in industry where the cost of management was 26% of the overall budget. You end up with more chiefs than Indians in that drive, you know, so it's lots of waste. And so we want to reduce waste. And waste in software processes, you can find it everywhere. Like at a certain point in time, the teams would develop design documents using Microsoft Word. What a waste. It's a waste because when you ask the question, does anybody read the document after it's done? And then the answer is no. Then why have you done it at the first place? Stop doing things that are not useful. But in order to do that, you need to reflect on your process to really identify the waste and eliminate it. If you don't take the time to do that, it's not worth it. You have to do it. Also, we want to get feedback more often from customers. We want to make sure every step we go in developing our software, that we're building the right product. And of course, we want to use adequate measurement to make sure that we're still on track and that our measurement speaks to us. It tells us a story upon which we can take decisions and manage adequately our project. Not poorly, adequately. Not too much, not too less, just adequate. And Agile could provide that. I mean, there's nothing new in Agile. Whenever they lay out the concept of what is being Agile, they only group together good practices that were already known for sometimes decades. Okay? So what is it? It's an empirical approach that would allow to test in the field often software that is being developed, so not just at the end, but more often to also adapt whenever we figure out something was inadequate and then update our scope. That means we need to maybe re-estimate all the time. And build a solution in successive stages so the users can understand all the changes, and instead of having a big change on the staff, it's just small change with small steps. It's easier to absorb in an organization. So being Agile is defined by the Agile Manifesto, which was published in February of 2001, and it's 4 values and 12 principles. Now, the thing is, most people who have heard about Agile, they vaguely remember those 4 values and the whole kit, I'd say, the énoncé in French, so the whole page stating those 4 values, it's often quoted partially, so they're not really applying, but what is, to my sense, most important is not the values, it's the 12 principles. So we'll go through them a little. So one of the first principles is we want to put the business value first by delivering continuously and most early in the project. So we don't want to wait to deliver at the end. We want to deliver early and frequently the business value. So that means we need to organize our functionality if it has to be driven by the business value. And changing requirements are welcome, even late in the project. So it's an advantage for the customer. So that means we want to have a change management process that is really lightweight, because we don't want that reaction, say, oh, here's a change request. Oh, no, it will take 6 months. No. Or 4 weeks is even too much. It should take only a few minutes to process. Okay? Shorter time scale and deliver frequently. So once we start delivering, we want to do it as quick as possible. Quick as possible, like, for instance, everyone have heard about the Scrum method. Scrum, Agile is not Scrum. Scrum is just an implementation of Agile, and it's not the only one. And it's not the end of the world. It's just a method. Okay? So, in Scrum, for instance, you will have sprints of a duration between 2, 3, or 4 weeks, depending on the project. How many viewpoints on the results you need should drive the sprint length, sprint duration. So you want them as quick as possible. Business people and developers work together daily, not just one afternoon per month. No, daily, every day. Todos los días. Okay? And you want to build projects around motivated individual. Now, what does motivate a software engineer or anyone? That whatever work they do, they feel it has a sense. You put sense to your work. It means something to you. Now, you want to pull that off from a software engineer, is make him work on a software project where he never sees the customer and he doesn't have a clue who or when or how frequently this functionality's building will be used. Therefore, on the contrary, when the customer is present daily with the team, he can communicate on a daily basis how important this functionality is. So if you know as a software engineer that your customer tells you how important it is, it's a source of motivation. Say, I'm building something that will be useful, gives you motivation. Face-to-face is most efficient and effective as a communication means. What is least effective and efficient is documents. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do documents. You need documents. But when you want to understand what your software is about, well, discussion face-to-face on a whiteboard with a pen, and you can explain and draw examples. This is when you obtain common understanding about the requirement, the design, or the work to be done. Measure of progress should be working software. Now, I could develop documents about architecture, requirements, design, database structure, maintenance manual, developer's guide, project management plan, all documents, and spend 80% of my software budget on it. Well, unless I have working software, the so-called earned value, well, I haven't earned anything, no value. The real value happens when the software is used. So if you want value, measure of progress should be working software, deployed software, used by users. We want to develop also at a constant pace. We were fed up of end of project where the schedule was squeezed. We needed to work 70 hours per week to complete the testing, which revealed we had lots of bugs we need to hurry up and fix, create other new bugs, to end up being late anyway, exhausted, divorced, or kids that do not even recognize you, saying, "Dad, who's the lady?" It's your mom. She's working too much. So, constant pace means we should have a process that allows us to do all these activities in any given day, in any given cycle, so that we can work 40 hours a week, no more. And it's been proven that most bugs are created while people are working overtime because their brain is just exhausted. Okay. We need also to pay attention, continuous attention to technical excellence. Now, what that principle means is that it is expected that you do peer reviews, automated testing, strong configuration management practices, refactoring, continuous integration. Okay, that's just the basic any given agile team should put into practice. If they don't do that and they claim to be agile, they're just a bunch of liars or pretending. They just put an agile label on their chaotic and disorganized and poorly managed process. Okay. Simplicity also is the art of minimizing waste. So if you have a selection of 2, 3, 4 potential solutions, well, the simplest one is most probably the best. Will be easier to maintain anyway. And why is it important to have maintainability of application? Is because right after the first sprint, you're already in maintenance mode, because you will be evolving actual existing software. So if it's not maintainable, well, your productivity will only lower in the following sprints. So you need to have a mint quality. Self-organizing teams, well, the price of that is that they must provide transparency. And as managers sometimes they fear or they mistaken self-organizing teams with I abandon the team. No, as a manager you do not abandon the team. You just trust them. Trust them with objectives and goals, and they will do whatever necessary with very good quality and sound engineering practices so they can deliver that goal. They can achieve the goal and objective. So as a manager, you should expect the transparency from the team. That means transparent about the problems they're facing, and you should be readily available to fix issues that the team cannot fix itself. For instance, they start the project, they need an integration server right away. But integration or infrastructure people, they did not felt it was important because they were used to deliver integration server 6 months after the beginning of a traditional project. Well, the manager has to go see infrastructure people say, hey, we need it today. Tomorrow is fine, but as fast as possible. Okay, that type of issues, managers should support the team by obtaining necessary tools, skills, expertise that the team may require. And nonetheless, reflect and improve means that at irregular interval, you reflect on the way you work, and the team must ask itself, if we have to do it again, what would we do differently? What can we improve in the way we are currently developing our software? And they should act accordingly. They should modify their process a little bit of the time, but at the end of every iteration. So it should be done frequently. So an agile team is a team that improves on a continuous basis. So I've heard things like, oh yes, we are agile because we do stand-up meeting of 15 minutes every day. Is that on the list? No. And then you ask, well, is the customer working with you daily? No. You do retrospective at the end of every sprint. No. You do refactoring of code? No. You do automated testing? No. Do you know the business value of every functionality in your backlog? No. And then to every question you ask related to those 12 principles, the answer is no. So how come you're agile? You're not at all. So beware of people claiming to be agile. Just scratch that varnish, go beyond that, look at how they implemented the principles, and you'll see they're often not so agile, and don't be surprised if they say later, we've tried agile, but it didn't work. Yeah, well, you haven't tried it really. Not with those 12 principles in mind. Anyway, so to be or not to be, good question. So we don't do agile, we are agile. It's a state of being, it's a state of mind as well. So those 12 principles is not a menu of a restaurant where you pick and choose only those 1, 2, or 3 items that you like. No, you are agile when you apply them all. It doesn't mean you apply them all perfectly. It could be partially, but you learn and you improve. That's the point. Start applying them, then improve. So general project measurement, whether we're agile or not, what is it we need to know? Well, given a scope either of a software product or project scope and an expected level of quality, you'll want to know how much it costs and when can it be delivered. Now we'll work a bit backwards. How much it costs? Largest cost portion of a software project is effort. So we need to know what will be the team effort. So we can transform staff hours or staff days, multiply by how many dollars or pesos, and then obtain the cost. But to estimate the team effort, we need a productivity rate. Productivity rate is how much effort per size unit you are able to produce. Your software product process is able to produce. So, size. We need the software size. Now, the date. We need our delivery rate. How many size units per month or per sprint are we able to deliver normally? But we also need the size. So the size is really a key measure. We need to understand, to know, to measure the size of our software project. And only then, once we have the cost and the date, we understand better if we have a good business case from the business value and minus the cost it has, we have our return on investment. So, we have Agile team, they use different measurement techniques, or they have different ways of showing progress that for which I will critique them. I'll be very critical about them. One is really well known is the sprint breakdown. Sprint breakdown shows on the x-axis the days, working days. So in this example, 20 working days is 4 weeks. The blue line represents the ideal days. The y-axis represents the total number of staff hours. Because if you're using Scrum, at the first task the team does when the sprint starts is to do the sprint backlog, which is a WBS, a list of tasks that are estimated in hours, staff hours. And it's the total of these hours that are shown here, okay? And the red line is the remaining hours that's left to be done. So whenever a task is completed, someone will, at the end of every day, they will update the task saying remaining hours 0. Or remaining hours, let's say, was estimated 10 hours, remaining hours 5. So the total of remaining hours is the red line. What it doesn't show is that how crappy or good they were at estimating tasks. We don't see that variation at all. We don't see also if new tasks were discovered during the sprint. Doesn't show that. It may show because the red line slows down. Means we're working but adding tasks and doesn't go down. Just go straight or even up. But how much was it? What portion of it was it? We don't know. If you have overestimated some tasks, it will look like you go faster, but so it doesn't show a lot of information. You have also similar graphs that are used to at the project level, where on the x-axis you see iterations or sprints. So if you have, let's say, a 2 weeks duration of sprint, means every blue bar represents 2 weeks. So this is like 4 months. 4 months where here it says effort in points. Well, points are user story points. But user story points is in French, when we translated them, we translated as point d'effort, effort points. Okay, it's not size, it's effort. Okay, and then it says here the whatever points were completed, that it's the velocity. Well, velocity is just a fancy term for productivity. But for some reason, Agilists, they dislike using terminology that was used a decade or two ago, and so productivity they don't like, they say velocity. But if you look in the dictionary, velocity is it's really the speed. Okay? And it's a matter of distance you go through in a given time. So, as far as I'm concerned, effort is no distance. Anyway, but they call it velocity. What you don't see here is scope variation. You have no idea if the PO, product owner, has added functionality, modified the complexity of some of the functionality, and so it doesn't show much information. It's just what's remaining. And how about business value? We have no idea of the business value that is hidden inside the work left to be done. Okay? Ooh, what happened was there? Okay, there's a poker planning game that is also a technique that is used to estimate by analogy the relative effort of any given backlog item. Now, the team will apply it. 10 minutes left. Oh, okay, I need to go quicker. So anyway, poker planning, you can find it on Wikipedia. There's a velocity graph that also just tells how much user story points per sprints that were achieved according to the done definition. Well, the done definition is something an Agile team would do. Is just really the summary of a software quality assurance plan. It's a list of technical excellence activities that must be achieved in order to consider an item done, okay, ready to deploy. And also there's this burnout chart where instead of going down, it's going up, but you have here a bar that says this is the backlog, and we see the backlog, it has increased a little. And again, it's in story points or user story points, which is compared to a relative estimation of effort. It's not size. Okay. So user story points, a largely approximate level of perceived effort. It's not size. It's just a rule of thumb like this. Okay? It's a consensus by team members that should take into account complexity, risk level of liquid testing, and any other factors that could influence effort. However, in many cases, that so-called consensus is not really applied. I mean, they look at the numbers and they say, oh, majority says it's 8 points, you say it's 5. Nah, let's put 8. We don't want to hear your story. No. So, and also, well, they use the poker planning game to obtain that. So it's not exactly the Fibonacci sequence, it's an adapted version of it. But the issues with user story points is first, it's subjective. Second, it's only meaningful for that team. So it's not possible to compare that with other teams in your own organization or in other organizations, and not even with the same team in other projects. Like, it's really hard to tell from one project to another how many staff hours represent what user story points. And user story points are a representation of effort. But saying exactly how many of these hours, we cannot say. Therefore, these largely approximate level of perceived effort are unfortunately used by managers as if they were values on a ratio scale. As if, yeah, it's 100 points, it should be precise. It's not. And then they use those numbers to manage, and this is considered as a management malpractice. But they don't know better. That's the point. So what should we do? Well, we can use the sunset graph technique. Sunset graph technique, instead of the other graphs we've seen before, you can at least illustrate your backlog by categories. Mandatory is the orange, important, pale orange, and optional yellow. All of which is just categorization. You can add more categories if you want, of the backlog items. Very often the PO does not know how to quantify each item, the business value per se at the dollar level, or but he or she can say, oh, this is absolutely mandatory to attain my business goal. This one is important, but if I don't have it now or soon, it's okay to have the functionality later, and the optionals are really the nice to have. So they can categorize easily their backlog. So we can show that. So it is a representation of the business value of the whole backlog. And then when it changes throughout the sprints, you see the variation of the backlog size. And then in blue, here, is what the team is actually, what it has delivered. Now, 10 size units, and I emphasize on size units, because if for the time being the team only have user story points, which is better than nothing, but it's really not a good measure, but you can replace that with any given functional size unit method, which will work better. And then so on, and after 3 sprints, you can look at your numbers, say, okay, what's the lowest? 7. What's the highest? 13. And from there, you can project a pessimistic value with 7 points per iteration, which will require 6 more sprints, and optimistic value of 13 units per iteration, which will require 3 more sprints. Then you have your cone of uncertainty, which is a concept Barry Beam laid out in software economics in 1981. I mean, we've known that estimation is not a number, is an interval. So in one image, you already have an improved version of what the Agile team should provide as a transparency graphic. So the cosmic method we talked about earlier, for those of you who don't know how it works, is that you have the software to measure, there's a boundary between the software and the users, you have a number of functional processes in between. On the back-end side, you have storage hardware. Front-end side, you could or not have input-output hardware. And then anything that goes from the user through the boundary is an entry movement, and an exit, and read, and write. So you have 4 different types of data movement, 1 point per data movement, per data group, per functional process. You add them up, you have your functional size. So, lady was asking how does it take a long time to measure software? Well, with well-written requirements, my pace, because I know the method, is less than 2 minutes per cosmic function points. So is that a lot? Is that too few? How much time or how much effort it takes per cosmic function points to develop software? Roughly 10 hours, 10 staff hours per cosmic function point is a median value that we find in international database. So taking 2 minutes to do the measurement is not that much. Okay? We have a good industry example also that illustrates what they did is that applied Scrum method, and the team, they estimate the task in user story points. They have 24 tasks in 9 iterations, but they also measured the cosmic size of each of them. A task in that case being a functionality. So here's the data they obtained. As you can see, the estimated effort, they were converted in hours, but they really used user story points, and the actual effort it takes. So the correlation factor only 0.33, which is quite low. And when we compare that, we can see that not only the distribution of data was a bit large, but we had also 2 extremes, like this point here should have been closer to the line, and this also. So there was a problem there. So with Cosmic, the same data, the exact same data, measured in Cosmic points, much narrow distribution, much higher correlation factor of 0.977, I mean, it's really high. And those 2 outliers, when looking at them, they're on the line. So that means that the user story points, the team affected, they did not understand the complexity of the item. So, and to terminate, I want to give you a word about DevOps, because DevOps is really trendy right now. A lot of organization, I don't know in Mexico, but in Canada, in Montreal, many organizations are adopting DevOps practices. Well, it's DevOps is when you go beyond Agile, and you have already applied technical excellency in your engineering practices, you have to apply 24 capabilities divided among 5 categories, and that constitute DevOps, where you develop, you release, you deploy, you monitor every functionality, and then you start again, and then you do this all the time. So it's from development to operations in a continuous cycle. And there are many reasons why organization wants to adopt DevOps, and typically is that because there was research that demonstrate a relationship of cause and effect of software delivery performance on organizational performance in terms of profitability, productivity, market share, and also non-commercial measures like efficiency, effectiveness, customer satisfaction, and the fact they could achieve better or faster their mission goals. Okay. Now, software delivery performance, okay, they define 4 measures. The lead time, deployment frequency, mean time to restore, and change fail percentage. Now, it's really nice, but those measures, you take them as you go once the project has started. You know, so the issue is that we still need to obtain budget approval to start the project in the first place, and then you need an estimate for that. So those 4 measures are very useful as you go, but if you want to begin your project, you still need functional size, effort, and duration, out of which you will produce your productivity rate and delivery rate, so you can answer those nasty 2 questions. How much will it cost? When will it be ready? So here's my university. So conclusion, typical agile measures, well, they are insufficient and inadequate in many cases. The sunset graph technique has shown a wider view also of the project, so I encourage you to look at it, because it's time for questions. Yes, thank you. And then the cosmic method can help you achieve that. So.